By the end of this story, you'll know why millions of people repeat the same financial mistake without realizing it. For 3 generations, Simone's family called themselves comfortable until the week she found the ledger packed at the bottom of a moving box and started reading exactly how the comfort disappeared. She was 24, her mother was 49, and starting over in a 2-bedroom apartment neither of them had chosen. Simone had grown up hearing the word used to own 3 furniture stores, used to have a house with a pool, used to be somebody around here. She never asked what happened. She was afraid the answer would sound like her mother's fault. The ledger was smaller than she expected. Cracked leather cover, a woman's handwriting, careful and small, dated from 1974 through a Tuesday in April, 30 years later. Her great-grandmother's name was Odessa Marsh. Simone had never met her. What she did not know, holding that ledger for the first time, was that she was about to meet her. Odessa opened her first furniture store with a loan of $4,300 and a promise to herself that she would pay it back before she paid herself anything at all. She kept that promise. Every Friday for 4 years, she sat at the same table and did the same thing. She counted what came in. She counted what had to go out first. Only then did she count what was left for her. The ledger showed it, page after page. Not stories, numbers, but underneath the numbers, a whole philosophy, written in a woman's own hand. Reinvest first, spend last, never let the store owe you before it owes anyone else. By the time Odessa was 50, there were 3 stores. By the time she died, there was close to $2 million in property and inventory, and a business that still, every single Friday, balanced to the penny. She left all of it to her daughter. She did not leave the Fridays. Renee inherited the money at 26. She did not inherit the method. Odessa had spent Renee's whole childhood keeping her away from the ledger, from the worry, the arithmetic, the weight of it. She wanted her daughter's life to feel easier than her own had. She thought that was the inheritance. It was only half of one. Renee opened a 4th location the same year the loan on the 3rd one was still unpaid. She trusted the number on the bank statement instead of the number in the ledger because nobody had ever taught her there was a difference. For a while, it looked identical to success. The stores were fuller, the house was bigger. Nobody, looking at Renee's life from the outside, could have told you anything was wrong. But here is what the numbers actually showed, the ones Renee had stopped writing down. The business was making less every year than it was spending, and the gap was being filled with more and more borrowed money, at worse and worse terms. That number from the beginning, the $4,300 Odessa borrowed and paid back inside 4 years, it matters again now, not because of what it was, because of what it taught, and who never learned it. By the time Renee was 43, the 4th location had already closed. By 45, the original store, the one Odessa opened by herself 30 years earlier, was gone too. The house went the year after that. Renee sat in her car outside the empty storefront, the same one her mother had opened with borrowed money and Friday afternoons, and she did not go inside. She sat there for a long time. She thought about her mother's hands, moving across that ledger every week, and she thought about how she had never once asked to be shown how it worked. She had assumed the money would simply keep being there, the way weather is simply there. Nobody had told her it required a foundation. Nobody had told her the foundation was a habit, not a number. She did not cry. She just sat, until the parking lot lights came on, and then she drove home to tell her daughter they were moving. That was 5 years before Simone found the ledger. Now, in her apartment, 24 years old, Simone kept reading. She got to a page from the year her mother was born, and Odessa had written, in the margin, for R. So she never has to worry the way I did. Simone sat with that sentence for a long time. She understood, finally, that it wasn't a story about a bad decision. It was a story about a good intention that skipped a step. The old voice showed up that night, the one that sounds like every relative who ever said money runs out on people like us. It said, "This is just what happens to families like yours. You'll do the same thing. You don't even know where to start." Simone did not answer it out loud. She picked up a pen instead and turned to the first blank page in the back of her great-grandmother's ledger. She did not know what she was doing. Not really. She wrote down what she earned that month, then what had to go out first, rent, the minimum on her one credit card. Then, for the first time in her adult life, what was actually left over. It was $41. $41 did not feel like an inheritance. It felt like almost nothing. Day 3, her roommate laughed when she saw the ledger open on the kitchen table, called it very grandma, and Simone laughed too, and kept writing anyway. Day 9, she almost stopped. She had a bad week, a smaller paycheck than expected, and it would have been easier to close the ledger and pretend the number did not exist. She sat with it open in front of her for 20 minutes before she wrote anything down. Day 16, the number in the back of the ledger was $110. Small, real, hers. She called her mother that week, not to ask what happened, she already knew now, but to ask if she remembered the ledger. Renee went quiet on the phone for a moment. Then she said she used to watch her own mother writing in it every Friday and never once asked to learn. Money moves down a family in an instant. The people can hand it over with a single signature, a single will, a single account transfer, done. The habits do not move that way. They only move if somebody decides on purpose to teach them, not protect the next generation from them. Odessa gave Renee the house. She never got the chance to give her the Fridays. Simone has the Fridays now, not the money yet. The Fridays first. There is something almost unbearably ordinary about a family that lost everything once. Sitting back down at a kitchen table with a pen and an old ledger, starting again with $41. Nobody is coming to rescue this. No mentor is walking through the door. There is just a woman, a notebook that outlived the woman who started it, and the decision, quiet and completely her own, to write the next page. If your family's money ever disappeared, and nobody could quite explain why, you already know the ending of this story before it happens to you. Comment below with one word. The habit in your family that never got passed down. Somebody reading this might recognize it as their own beginning.